I didn't kill him because I wanted to. I killed him because the jungle told me to. The words cut through the sterile silence of the nursing home like a jagged knife. For 23 years, Walter Briggs hadn't spoken a single word. Not to the nurses, not to the priests, not to the doctors who scribbled selective mutism on his charts. But now, staring into the eyes of a college intern holding a cheap voice recorder, he had broken the seal. Ethan, the intern, froze. Outside, lawnmowers hummed and sprinklers clicked, but inside room 109, everything stopped breathing. Walter's voice had come low, rasping, like it had clawed its way up from somewhere deep. Deeper than memory, deeper than guilt. "What did you say, Mr. Briggs?" Ethan asked, his voice too casual, too nervous. Walter's eyes twitched, barely, then fixed back on the wall. Silence again. Ethan reached to stop the recording. That's when the old man spoke again. The jungle never forgets. Ethan slowly sat back down, his eyes flicking to the open notepad on his lap. This was supposed to be a routine interview, a few background quotes for a thesis on PTSD among Vietnam vets. Nobody warned him room 109 could talk, or that it would say something like that. The old man's fingers trembled, resting on a wool blanket tucked tightly around his legs. He looked skeletal, hollow. But his voice still had something in it, a weight, a threat. "You ever hear a man beg for his life in a language you don't understand?" Walter asked suddenly. Ethan shook his head. "You don't need to understand the words," Walter continued, staring now not at Ethan, but through him. "Your bones know. Your hands know." Ethan swallowed. "Who did you kill, Mr. Briggs?" Walter didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached slowly, under his blanket, pulling from his waistband a faded photograph. The edges were curled. The faces in it, 5 men in jungle fatigues, laughing, holding up bottles of warm beer, had been partially scratched out. Except for one, the man in the middle, clean-shaven, smiling, alive. "That's me," Walter said quietly. "And that's him." He tapped the figure standing behind him, half-shadowed. He wasn't supposed to come back. Ethan leaned forward. "Come? Back from where?" Walter looked at him. Really looked. His pupils tightening like a lens focusing on a long-lost target. "We left him in a ditch outside Bandon, throat cut, body burned." Ethan's hand stopped moving over the page, but 2 nights ago. "He came to my window." A long pause. "He hasn't aged." Outside, a storm began to roll in. First a flicker of lightning. Then a low, growling thunder. Walter looked toward it. "They told us we weren't in Cambodia, that it was all in our heads, dreams, hallucinations." His voice cracked. "But I remember the smell of his skin burning. I remember the way he screamed. The storm struck hard." Walter didn't flinch. He looked Ethan dead in the eyes. "You asked what happened to me in the war. I'll tell you. A beat. We killed the wrong man. And now, he wants us all to remember." Cambodia. Classified coordinates. Black Zone Delta. It wasn't a mission. It was a ghost hunt. Briggs was 21, Southern-born, raw-boned and angry, like most of the boys, in the 79th Recon. They were told they'd be securing a supply route, clearing brush, nothing more. But the second their boots hit the mud, things started going sideways. "No insignias, no IDs, no questions," said Captain Harrow, a hollow-eyed man with hands too clean for combat. They weren't given maps, just coordinates, and a name. Sparrow, a code name, a ghost. Some said he was NVA intelligence. Others whispered CIA gone rogue. Whoever he was, higher command wanted him erased. No trial, no body returned, just ash in the wind. Their squad, 5 men, was chosen because they were already considered expendable. A disciplinary mix. Briggs had punched a CO back in Saigon. Martinez was caught smuggling heroin in ammo crates. Levi was too twitchy. Kimball was too quiet. And then there was Rhodes, smiling, calculating, friendly, like a snake in the sun. They moved at night, slept in short shifts. The jungle wasn't just thick, it breathed. It watched. Martinez said he saw lights in the trees. Levi swore something was moving behind them, never visible but always there. Then, on the 5th night, they found the camp, a small cluster of huts deep in the green. No soldiers, just villagers, children, an old woman with milky eyes, harrows. Order came through radio static. Burn it. Leave no trace. Briggs refused. These ain't enemy combatants, they're farmers. Rhodes looked at him, calm, detached. You don't get it, do you? They're not collateral, they're camouflage. Briggs remembered the woman's scream, remembered the smell, kerosene on wet wood. He didn't light the match, but Rhodes did. The next morning, Martinez was gone. Just gone. No struggle, no gear, no trace. Levi said he saw something drag him into the fog, but nobody listened. By day 7, only Briggs, Rhodes, and Kimball were left. They reached the final coordinates, a single hut with radios inside, maps, a cot, and a man, American, eyes wide, hands raised, beard matted with dirt and blood. You don't understand, he whispered. They're not who they say they are. This isn't about communism. It's about them. Rhodes didn't wait. One shot, right between the eyes. They doused the body, lit the flame, watched it turn black and red and wrong. But when Briggs turned to walk away, he saw it, just for a second. The man's mouth moved, no breath, no voice, just the movement of lips. You'll see me again. And now, decades later, he had. The next morning, room 109 was sealed off, no visitors. That's what the nurse told Ethan when he showed up with fresh batteries in his recorder and 1,000 questions burning behind his eyes. No explanation, no detail. Just a laminated badge turned sideways and a clipboard held too close to the chest. Is he okay? Ethan asked. The nurse just smiled, too wide. Mr. Briggs is resting. But Ethan had spent the whole night re-listening to that recording, every rasp, every breath, every whisper about Cambodia, about him, the man who hadn't aged. Ethan went to the parking lot but didn't leave. Instead, he looped around the rear fence and slipped in through the kitchen entrance. No alarms, no cameras back there. He knew. He'd checked. When he reached room 109, the door was ajar. The light inside was yellowed and flickering. Walter wasn't in bed. He was standing, barefoot, in his hospital gown, facing the window. The rain tapped soft rhythms on the glass like fingernails. He's not outside today, Walter said. Ethan stepped in. You saw him again? Walter turned slowly. His eyes were darker, sunken, as if something had shifted behind them. He's in here now. Ethan felt a chill run through him. Who was he, really? Walter didn't answer. He sat down, the motion slow, deliberate. When we burned the hut, Walter said, Kimball screamed, not from fear, not from guilt, from something else. He said the man's eyes didn't burn, that even in the fire, they were watching. He looked up. 3 months after we got back stateside, Kimball was institutionalized. He tore out his own tongue, said it was the only way to stop the voice. Ethan sat, unsure if he should record. Voice? Yeah, Walter said. A whisper, right behind your left ear. Just breathing, saying your name. A beat. He's been saying mine for decades. Ethan leaned closer. Walter, what did the man in the hut do before you killed him? Walter looked at the wall. His hands started trembling. He showed us the map, said they were building something in the jungle, something ancient, buried. He said the war wasn't a war. It was a distraction, a ritual. Ritual for what? Walter's voice was dry, hollow. To keep something in. The lights flickered again. Rhodes laughed, said he was crazy. But that night, We heard the drums, from deep in the jungle. No bass nearby, just drums. Beating. Getting closer. Walter's breathing grew shallow. Next morning, Rhodes had claw marks on his back. Deep. Like he'd been dragged. He swore he dreamed of hands. Hundreds of them. Pulling him into black water. Ethan's skin crawled. You think it's real? What he said? Walter looked him straight in the eyes. I know it is, because I dreamed the same thing. The room fell silent, and then, tap, tap, tap. The window. Ethan turned. Nothing. He turned back. Walter was gone. Just gone. Only the photo remained on the hospital bed. And now, every face in it had been scratched out. Except one. Ethan didn't sleep for 2 nights. He sat on the edge of his mattress in the campus dorm, flicking through old records and Freedom of Information requests he'd filed on a whim, Vietnam vet debriefs, CIA black sites, psychological warfare trials. He had opened a door he didn't understand, and something had stepped through. The photo lay under a desk lamp, his own face, in a picture that was supposed to be 50 years old. That wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a resemblance. It was him and... The worst part was, he hadn't shown it to anyone. No Instagram, no blog, no social media. It hadn't existed online. So how did it get into that photo? Ethan ran a background check on Walter Briggs. That was easy. Former Army Recon. Discharged under conditions not specified. No family, no visitors in 2 decades. A ghost with a pulse. But then he searched. The others. Kimball. Dead in 1984. Suicide. Martinez. Missing. Presumed dead. Levi. Committed. Deceased. Rhodes. No record. That wasn't right. Every soldier leaves a trail. Birth, enlistment, deployment. But Rhodes? Nothing. No photo. No next of kin. No signature. It was like he'd never existed outside Walter's memory. That night, Ethan's phone rang. No caller ID. He almost let it go. But curiosity outweighed fear. Hello? A pause. Then, you shouldn't have asked about Rhodes. Click. Ethan stood frozen. He hadn't told anyone he was looking into Rhodes, not even his academic advisor. He called the nursing home. Room 109, asked for Walter. There's no one by that name here, the woman said. And there's no room 109. No, wait. I was just there 2 days ago. I'm sorry, sir. I think you're confused. Click. Ethan drove out there. He stood at the front desk of the same beige, plastic-smelling building, the same bored receptionist. Blinked at him like she'd never seen him before. Are you looking for a relative? Walter Briggs, room 109. She checked the computer. Frowned. No Briggs here. And we've never had a room 109. Ethan turned away without a word, but he didn't leave. He went around back again, through the kitchen, down the same hall, and room 109 was gone. The wall where it used to be was smooth, seamless, as if it had never existed. Ethan pressed his hand against it. Cold, he whispered. Walter. Nothing. Just the hum of fluorescent lights. He turned to leave, but something stopped him. Not a sound, not a shadow, just pressure. Like a weight had dropped behind his eyes. That night his dreams turned red. He was in the jungle. Wet leaves, slapping his face. Screams in the distance. He held a rifle, but he couldn't control his hands. They moved on their own. Pulled the trigger. Again. Again. Faces he didn't know. Fire. A hut. A man smiling at him through the flames. You always knew me, Ethan. Even before you were born. He woke, gasping. Cold sweat soaking his sheets. He checked the mirror. His eyes were bleeding. Just a trickle. Just one side. But it was real. He went to the university clinic. They told him it was a burst capillary, stress-induced, nothing serious. He didn't tell them about the voice, because now He heard it. Not in dreams, not in memory, but in the shower, in the space between footsteps, in the silences. Always the same words. Come home. He opened Walter's recording again, slowed it down, isolated background noise. There was something behind the rasping voice, drums, beating, steady, syncopated, faint but real, exactly like Walter had said. He ran audio analysis software. The rhythm wasn't random. It was a code. Morse. He translated it. 2 words. I remember. Ethan called his advisor, told him he needed time off, a personal emergency. The man didn't argue. Ethan could hear it in his voice, like the professor had been expecting this. He booked a flight to Southeast Asia, Bangkok, then overland to the Cambodian border. He didn't tell anyone. No itinerary, no social updates. But someone was following him. He saw the same man in the Bangkok airport. Again in the lobby of a dusty motel near Craty, Caucasian, mid-40s, aviator shades, military haircut, roads, no, but connected. Ethan kept moving, hired a local guide, traveled by boat up the Mekong, then by foot, deep into the jungle. They reached it on the 4th day, a clearing, hidden by thick brush. The earth was scorched, ash-gray, like nothing had grown there in decades. Ethan's guide refused to step closer. Bad spirits here, he muttered. Ethan stepped forward alone, and then he saw it. The hut, collapsed, but still there. Charred beams, blackened stone, and a single radio tower, rusted, listing sideways. He walked inside. The air turned cold. At the center of the ruin, a photograph. Clean, untouched by time. 5 men. One smiling in shadow. His own face. But now, his eyes were glowing. He turned to run and saw Walter Briggs standing in the trees, watching. But Walter didn't look old. He looked 21. Jungle fatigues, rifle slung, and next to him, Rhodes, eyes. Black, smiling. Now you understand, Walter said. Now you're part of it. Then the drum started again, and Ethan finally remembered everything. Ethan didn't remember walking. He didn't remember falling asleep, but when his eyes opened again, he was lying on a floor of wet stone, deep underground. No jungle, no sky, just walls pulsing like they were breathing. There was light, but no source. It shimmered along carvings in the stone, lines, symbols, worn by time, by heat. They weren't Vietnamese, or Khmer, or anything human. His ears rang, like a pressure drop inside his skull. The air vibrated, not with sound, but memory, emotion, pain. He tried to move, but his limbs were heavy, like gravity had thickened, and then footsteps, not echoing, but close. He turned, and there he was. Rhodes, young, impossibly so, jungle uniform pristine, clean boots, like he'd just stepped off a chopper. Ethan, he said calmly, you made it. Back. Ethan's mouth opened. No sound came out. You were always meant to. That's why we chose you. He crouched beside Ethan, expressionless. You think this is about war, about trauma. It's not. It never was. Ethan blinked. He felt heat in his nose, blood again. He tasted metal. Why me? He managed to croak. Rhodes smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Because you're his echo. Behind Rhodes, shadows stirred. Then, Walter. Also young, but not right. His eyes were dark voids, skin too pale, like something had hollowed him out. From the inside, he tried to fight it, Rhodes said. Tried to bury it in silence. But the truth bleeds. And now it's your turn. Ethan's vision blurred. The walls shimmered. And suddenly, he was there, standing next to Walter, holding a flamethrower, the hut ahead, the man inside screaming in English. You don't understand. It's in the earth. They feed it blood. But Ethan, young Ethan, didn't stop. He lit the stream. Fire consumed everything. Back to the cave. It's a loop, Rhodes whispered. We serve it. It feeds on memory, on guilt, on recurrence. That's why we never age. That's why we always return. Ethan looked down. His hands, young, strong, no scars. He was 20 again. Rhodes handed him a rifle. You already know what to do, Ethan screamed. But no sound came, only drums. They rose from the earth, faster, louder, pounding like a heartbeat, and then a shape at the center of the room. It wasn't human. Or maybe it was, at one point. Now it was a mass of twisted limbs, eyes that blinked too slow, mouths that whispered names Ethan had never said aloud. Do you remember now? It asked. He nodded, tears running down his cheeks. I do, and it smiled. 12 teeth, 1,000. One mouth opening into forever. It swallowed the room, and Ethan was gone. The world returned slowly, like light behind a gauze curtain. Ethan lay on his back, staring up at a gray ceiling. A ceiling fan rotated above him, creaking softly. He blinked. Once, twice. The blades kept spinning, but the room didn't feel right. He sat up. He was in a hospital bed. The walls were pale blue. A tray table with untouched food. An IV drip in his arm. A television in the corner playing static. No windows. His heartbeat thudded like jungle drums. A nurse entered. She was smiling. Too widely. Good morning, Mr. Rhodes. You had a little fall. Ethan froze. My name isn't Rhodes, he croaked. She tilted her head, still smiling. Of course it is. Don't worry. The memory confusion will pass. Just rest. She adjusted the IV, checked the monitors. Didn't meet his eyes. He tried to rise. Pain. Stabbed his spine. His legs wouldn't move. What happened to me? You came back, she said softly. Back from where? She didn't answer, just left the room. The door hissed shut. Ethan pulled the IV out with shaking hands, climbed off the bed. Every movement hurt. He reached the mirror on the far wall, and I stopped breathing. It was him. His face, but older. 40, maybe 50, with sunken eyes. A scar down his jaw he didn't remember getting. He stepped back. The door creaked open. A man stood there, tall, pale, eyes too still. Walter. But not old. Not young either. Just wrong. It's time to remember the rest, he said. The lights flickered, then vanished. When they came back, the room was gone. Ethan stood in a field. Red soil, black sky. Figures stood around him in a wide circle. Faceless. Uniformed. One by one, they lifted torches. In the center, a pit. And inside it, himself. Bound, bleeding, crying. Walter's voice echoed from somewhere high. Memory is a prison. You thought you were investigating us? You were recovering. Rhodes appeared beside him, silent. This isn't about war, Walter continued. It's about containment. Ethan shook his head. What are you? We're what's left. He stepped forward. You never interviewed Walter Briggs. You were Walter Briggs. You just forgot. Again. Ethan's knees buckled. No, I'm not. You volunteered, Rhodes said quietly. In '69, the project needed minds that could hold it. But it breaks them, every time. The figures closed in. They wipe you, drop you back in. You wake up in a hospital, in a dorm, in a jungle. Doesn't matter. It always ends the same. Ethan clutched his head. Why me? Because you're the only one who can hold the door shut. He looked up. The pit began to crack open from within. Light poured, not gold, not fire. Something older, hungry. Walter knelt beside him. If you walk away again, it escapes. And next time, it won't be just a jungle. The light consumed everything, and then silence, a nursing home. Room 109, morning sun streaming through the blinds, an Intern steps in, recorder in hand. Mr. Briggs? The old man turns his head slowly, smiles. I didn't kill him because I wanted to. I killed him because the jungle told me to. And the loop begins again.